U.S. president, because the president's so constrained. You'd probably say it's Xi Jinping because he has the second largest economy and he's consolidated so much power and can leverage it, particularly economically and commercially, through a state capitalist system to get outcomes that he wants with countries that need that large S around the world, mostly in the global south. But I would say increasingly, the most powerful people in the world are the small handful of individuals that are driving AI. It's Sam Altman, and it's Satya Nadella, and it's, there's 7 to 10 of them. And these people are going to create the AI in a very short period of time that is being trained on our individual data. We will use those tools continuously. We won't shut it off, and it will change who we are. It will make us different from Homo sapiens. It will make us hybrid human beings who act and think differently. I'm a little scared by that. I'm a little concerned by that. It's obviously also very exciting, but it's an enormous amount of power in the hands of a very small number of people, and it's something we need to spend a lot more time on.
Volume 16.
The real world, but it's not, will be so compelling that you just won't visit. They're hoping you'll live there. And this is important. When you use these goggles, it seems like you're still in the normal world. It seems like you're still in the normal reality, but you're actually not. You're living in a world generated by Facebook or Apple, and of course overlaid with the apps and information they want to place there. And of course you're subject to the interpretations of the way reality should be and should not be based on those companies. Now, further in it says that unfortunately this could have some very weird issues and very messy consequences for the human brain. Researchers have found that widespread long-term immersion in VR headsets could literally change the way we perceive the world and each other. A little created world. And people will start
welcome to the Matrix.
The common reality shared by human beings is going to go away. And for frequent users, the world in the goggles will become your normal world. It's like the Matrix, folks. I don't know if any of you folks ever watched the director commentary on that.
Did I tell you or
not? They actually said something very interesting on some of the experiments on virtual reality and virtual worlds. And keep in mind, when that movie came out, and of course they did the director commentary, this was very early on in VR technology, virtual reality technology. They said that based on studies that had been already conducted at the time, the human brain, once it becomes immersed in an artificial reality, can no longer differentiate real from fake. The real world becomes just as fake as the fake world, and the fake world becomes just as real as the real world. When you take them off, you're going to be disoriented because your brain believes that the other one is the true reality. And I'd say if that happens, then what becomes of the real world around you? What becomes of the real world for you even? And what happens as well is these become more integrated where people may not have much of a choice but to use them, or you get a chip in your brain or something like that. And if you add to this the other things like extremely immersive, violent video games where people start to think that that's the real world and they take them off and they're disoriented. It won't be everybody, but some people will be affected by it. Virtual reality pornography, virtual reality chatbots that you can visit your girlfriend or boyfriend that's not real in your imaginary world by, AI to create people who are around you, but they're not really there. You're going to have essentially like digital schizophrenia. And of course, people who decide that the real world is just too much, and they decide to completely immerse themselves in this fake reality, living there constantly, again, as it overlaps with the real world. And then add to this the other problems, the issues of what this will do, as technology is going to do to the human brain itself. If the human brain gets rewired, so to speak, and of course they're talking about that because the gestures, the movements, the other forms you start to engage in to interact within that true environment, your body's motor skills actually begin to adjust to that new reality. It's just like having an artificial limb, for example, or, for example, a child learning to walk. that becomes the reality you're in, and the human brain compensates for it. And as it does so, it's going to have a hard time moving between realities as you go between digital and fake, or digital and real. And, people are experimenting with something really with this. We don't know what the long-term effects are going to be, but it could significantly warp the lines between what is real and what is fake. Because there are going to be some people who start to see the fake world as more real. And I think as you have people who don't want to accept reality of their bodies or of politics or of anything else, they're going to be, as that becomes more integrated into society itself, we're going to have to deal with this in terms of how does law interact with this? How does working in school, how do these interact? How does driving interact with it? Already you have people wearing them while they drive cars, by the way. And because it's going to blur the nature of reality itself, this is going to be essentially like digital psychosis, a hallucination made to look real to each individual. An individual who can, of course, manifest their delusions into what appears to be a real space but is not. And that artificial reality will begin slowly to replace true reality for those people who decide to use it.
My name's Jen Marshall. I've been playing professional football in a women's league for 3 years now. We're about 3.5 weeks out of my second surgery now. I had no pain whatsoever, no tingling, no numbness, and I felt incredible. I'm able to do pretty much anything. He doesn't want me pushing it too much, but I'm able to do, assisted pull-ups now. I'm riding a bike.
As that becomes more integrated into society itself, we're going to have to deal with this in terms of how does law interact with this? How does working in school, how do these interact? How does driving interact with it? Already you have people wearing them while they drive cars, by the way. And because it's going to blur the nature of reality itself, this is going to be essentially like digital psychosis, a hallucination made to look real to each individual. An individual who can, of course, manifest their delusions into what appears to be a real space but is not. And that artificial reality will begin slowly to replace true reality for those people who decide to